Hey, it's If you're wondering why everything is vaguely green in my past few videos, it's because I can't be bothered to set up my ring light, so I sit in front of my window and use natural light to film. And in the summer, all of the trees have grown in, and it's very green outside my window, and so any light coming in comes through the trees and makes everything a little bit green. And I'm kind of fine with it, so, whatever. It's still better than setting up the ring light and everything else, which to me is just such a hassle. And I'm lazy. So that's where we are. Anyway, the point of this video is actually to talk about the couple of books I have read. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first book that I have recently read is Heaven Official's Blessing. This is translated from Chinese, I believe. It is Danmei, which I guess is the Chinese equivalent of Boys Love, Yaoi, kind of, although this volume doesn't have anything explicit like that. The story in general, like broadly, is that this prince, and I apologize, I read the pronunciation guide and everything, but I'm probably still gonna get this all wrong. This prince, his name was Xiang. He ascended to heaven to become an immortal, a kind of god, and then went back to the mortal world because he wanted to help people during a war, but he actually made things worse. So then he was demoted, lived on Earth for, collecting scraps, begging, that kind of thing. Ascended again briefly for like a day, was demoted again, and has ascended after 800 years for a third time. This is unheard of. It's upsetting to the other, gods, immortals, heavenly officials, as they were. And he has to kind of pay back debts because I guess the third time he ascended, he wrecked some people's heavenly mansions and broke a bell and things like that. So in order to do that, you have to earn merits, which come from people on Earth building temples to you, burning incense for you, praying to you, but no one prays to Xiang because he is now kind of a god of misfortune. So he's sent basically to hunt ghosts, or to basically, when people pray for help with some bad situations going on, he goes to solve the problem or figure out the problem. Or anyway, at one point, brides are going missing on a mountain in this village, and Xiang goes and figures out what the supernatural cause of that is and how to fix it. He's got a couple of sidekicks. And then he also meets this mortal, maybe young man named San Lang, who he's pretty sure isn't mortal. He and his sidekicks are trying to figure out who or what San Lang actually is. But there's definitely an attraction between Liang and San Lang. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. Okay. Everybody told me, oh, you should read this, you're really gonna like it. And I did actually really like it. It's got some genuinely horrific elements to it. Some of the descriptions of some of the nasty things are legitimately nasty and horrible. I will say that it kept me guessing and engaged. Like, oh, how are they going to get out of this? Like, what are they going to do next? I like the attraction between Xie Lian and San Lang. I only just discovered this is the first of like 8 volumes though, and I'm like, oh, am I up for like 8 volumes of this? I don't know. I will probably read at least 1 or 2 more and see where it goes. It's engaging. It's a relatively quick read, but again, it is in translation, so you have to be okay with that style of like Japanese, Asian, Chinese in translation, because it has a very specific way, a cadence that is not typical for Western readers. So you have to either get used to that or be used to that. But it's an interesting story. I like all the characters. I don't normally read horror, and I wasn't like prepped for some of the horror involved in this. I mean, it's nothing like, it has some pretty gory moments, but like, it's nothing. I've read Stephen King, I've read Dean Koontz, like, it's nothing worse than that. It's just that the descriptions are like pretty articulate of like these things, and it's like, ew, gross. But yeah, I'm curious about San Lang. I want to see this relationship develop. So if you like that kind of thing, and you can tolerate, again, the way Asian stories tend to be translated, and you can tolerate some of the horror elements. It's got some nice illustrations in there, just line art illustrations, but they're nice. They're a nice complement to the story. And yeah, it's a hefty book. To read it, I had to, break the spine, because there's no way not to, because it's heavy. It's a large trim size, and it's heavy. It's not the kind of book you would necessarily carry around to read. Maybe it's on Kindle. I don't know. I picked this one up at the bookstore, but under, like I said, so many people recommended it for me. But yeah, I do really like it. I struggle reading long series. If you know me, I don't. I eventually wander off. I managed to get pretty far in the Peter Grant Rivers of London, 7 or 8 into that. And so, I could probably do this, but it'll take me a long time, because I will need to read other things between. I'm not one of those people who can just read. I think The Raven Cycle was one of the only ones that I just read straight through like that. But yeah, I don't typically read this, a bunch of the same thing, because I will get bored. I need variety in my diet. I also don't eat leftovers, to my husband's frustration. So, it's just like, no, I just ate that. I don't want to eat it again. Well, it's same with reading. I just read a bunch of this. I need something else now. Which brings me to the second thing I've read. I haven't really rated it. Yeah, I'd say I'd give it like a 4.5. Heaven Official's Blessing. I feel like I'm gonna say that all wrong. But yeah, I think about like between 4.5 stars. Because I do really, really like it. I do. It feels like a little more work for me reading, because of all the names and things. My brain wants to sound it out every time it sees like the words, the names and things like that, so it slows me down in my reading. But overall, I did really enjoy it. I really like the characters, like I said, and I'm intrigued by the setup. So the second book I read, very different, is Revenge by, is it Tom Bower. This is the one about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, and is very biased, kind of setting up Meghan Markle as a an adventurous, let's say, somebody who kind of set a definite plot in motion. It has moments where it kind of tries to mitigate it by saying, oh, well, you know, she used to be kind of caring and compassionate, but she got worse, or I don't know. It's hard. The tone is a little bit strange. It's definitely biased. And like, I feel like the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I never read the Finding Freeman Finding Freedom, the one that was more pro Harry and Meghan, I guess. There seems to be quite the divide, and I feel like, you know, the reality is somewhere in between, probably. I love a little bit of good gossip now and then, and I have like a curiosity about the royal family. Like, when I was a kid, I was very into like Princess Diana and things, so every now and then I'll circle back and read some kind of royal gossip thing, and this seems to be the royal gossip of late. Obviously a lot has happened since Revenge was published, but yeah, I mean, reading it, keeping in mind that it is definitely got a bias to it. It was a very fast read for a chunky book, because it, you know, it goes pretty quick. There were some like weird things where, like, at some point he kept saying American network, and I think he meant the USA network, because I'm pretty sure that's the network that aired Suits. I've never seen Suits. I don't know, but like, I was like, does he mean USA network? Maybe there's an American network in Canada or something. I don't know. There were some weird things. He definitely is sympathetic to Meghan's father, Thomas, and the way he was kind of left to fend for himself against the media, and definitely, just like I said, kind of highlights what he sees as manipulation tactics on Meghan's part. If any, I mean, if you're being generous, maybe like Meghan and Harry are just kind of a toxic pair. They play off of each other's worst characteristics and kind of bring those to the surface. I'm saying the book suggests this. I'm not saying that this is true. I don't know enough personally to weigh in, right? So I can only from what I gather. But and then, you know, if you're being less generous, it was all a plot by Meghan Markle to snare a prince in order to boost herself to Hollywood stardom, because Hollywood stardom has always been the end game, and since she wasn't getting there on her own merits, assuming she has any, on her own, you know, then she was like hitching her wagon to a royal star, and then hoping to parlay that into stardom, like Hollywood success, and that hasn't worked either, apparently, at least not thus far. That's what I gather after reading the book. It was, you know, a 4-star read. Like I said, I was entertained. It was a quick read. You know, you just got to keep in mind that you're reading something that's got a very definite angle to it, as these books tend to have. I liked this one better than the one by like Lady C that I read a year or so ago. So yeah. Yeah, 3.5 to 4 stars on that one, I guess. But if you've read either of these, if you have interest in either of these, if you've read more of Heaven Official's Blessing, I don't know if they're all titled that. Is that the name of the series? Is that just the name of the first book? I don't know. I have to go look it up. But if you've read more of it, is it worth continuing? Let me know. I think I'll keep reading it. But like, again, spaced out. I can't read them back to back, so it's going to take me a long time probably. The only things I can read back to back are manga. Manga, they're fast. I don't know. I could read a good chunk of those at a time. Even still, if it's a long series, I will need to break it up. Because even then I'll get like too much of this, too much of a good thing. But yeah, like, anything else? No, I don't think so. I think that's it. I will put up my blank bingo board somewhere. Here. And then I will put up my bingo board with the little icons placed. I put Heaven Official's Blessing in Books and Translation because it might be the only one I read like that this year, except for manga. And I put Revenge Under Royalty because fits that prompt. But you can see that, like, I'm pretty close to blacking out my board. We're getting there. I am on track for the year to read 40 books because this is like, I'm at 21 now. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and I haven't been writing. I don't know if writing's still worth it, guys. With the rise of AI and so few, like, sales and page reads, I don't know. I always say if you can walk away from writing, you should. And I have done it periodically. I think the longest I ever went without writing was about 18 months, maybe 2 years. I have a writing retreat scheduled for August. Maybe by then I'll feel ready to tackle it again, but in the meantime I'm just kind of going with the flow and doing more reading and less writing for the moment. So it is what it is. And yeah, I'll see what book I pick up next. I've got a couple from the library, The Spite House, because I've heard a lot about that, and it's short, so maybe I can pick that one up next and get through it pretty quick. And I think I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow because somebody read it and said it reminded them of me, and I was like, I don't play video games, but okay, I will try it. So that's what's up next on my TBR. And if you've read those, let me know about those. And until then, take care.